excited to have Lindsay Little on today. She has some amazing talents with healing people. She does the emotion code, self-care coaching. She is yoga certified. She believes that everything is energy, which obviously it is. And by tapping into the subconscious mind, she can effortlessly locate and release stuck trauma, negative emotional energy in the body. And most of the time, this will process and alleviate physical pain, shift toxic patterns, release limiting beliefs, remove energetic blocks, and align you with your authentic self. And she does so effortlessly. I just did a session with her. I finished, and she literally tells me at certain points of my life, when I was 5, I had guilt and shame, or when I was 23, I had terror. So it's very, very interesting. And then she's able to release those energetical blockages literally after one session. So I am super, super excited and honored to have Lindsay Little here with me today. Welcome, Lindsay, to Krystal Tini TV.
Your sister.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Welcome everybody to Krystal Tini TV. We have Lindsay Little here with us. And Lindsay, just give us a little intro. We did an amazing session. I had an amazing healing session with her that we just completed. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But what is it that you do? What are you involved in?
I guess a little bit of everything, right? But part of my story is just traveling through life and picking up, different things along the way. I guess because I'm an empath. Probably about 20 years ago, I had Lyme disease and searched for answers. Western medicine wasn't quite helping. And so I started to look, elsewhere. And I actually found a kinesiologist, and through energy work, he helped me not only survive, but live a very quality life. And that doesn't happen for a lot of people, because I know people who have Lyme disease and they've been struggling for a while just to function, And so I considered myself very blessed for that. And then I got dengue fever when I was doing some travel in Thailand. And so that it felt like it kind of took me out again, And so I started going back to my kinesiologist. Like, it really did help, but I was also pretty codependent on him for survival, I felt. And I knew there was probably another way, something else that I could do for myself. And so, of course, changing your diet, having less for your body to have to work through, so that it can use that energy to heal yourself. And then I just started researching energy like crazy, and how everything is frequency and energy. Read a lot of books, met a lot of cool people, started really attracting that tribe. And probably about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I was introduced to the emotion code, body code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And I was telling you earlier, but he's a chiropractor, and he would adjust someone's body, and then they would come back with the same injury over and over and over again. And he would adjust them, and they would come back. And so he's like, I think there's something else going on. And that's when he started to realize that the body will hold this dense or weaker or lower frequencies, and that can actually cause physical issues in the body. Now, they're coming out with reports saying stress does this to the heart, or grief can actually give you a heart attack. They're starting to not now name things other than just stress that can harm the body. And I will tell you, there's a lot of things, anything emotionally traumatic, when it's not processed and it stays in the body, it can cause all sorts of issues. So anything from migraines, which we talked about earlier, to that energy holding on to the Lyme disease and keeping me from healing, to back problems, to knee problems, to any sort of misalignment in the body at all, even certain behavioral patterns. And also, we know if those emotions are in the body, we can be triggered by them. So then if I'm dating someone and they tell me something, and then I'm like, if something happens and I go crazy or I get upset or whatever, it's actually not because of what happened, not necessarily what he said or what they said. It's actually coming from that trapped emotion that's in the body. So, and I was telling you too, that you don't have to have had a really traumatic childhood to have trapped emotions.
Mhm.
You can have inherited trapped emotions in the womb, all sorts of things. So now what I do is I feel like I just sort of facilitate a time to help your body release these things and alchemize them into light.
Mhm.
And for those emotions to be able to be healed, so we can bring your body closer to that restful state, that homeostasis state, so that your body can literally heal itself. And that's when it detoxes out the stuff that doesn't belong, you know? So, and I was mentioning to you that little, I guess, illustration or whatever before of, you know, when you have something that happens to you and we don't know how to process that energy, which by the
Mhm.
way, breathing really helps.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Breathing. Yeah. If we could just like breathe deep when something is happening rather than getting into that shallow breath, or we
Mhm.
can move our body or get grounded, then that energy has somewhere to go. But because we
Right.
weren't really taught that, and we were told either stop crying or we were told to go sit in the corner or something like that. So our body is still, which it doesn't need to do. And then we're shallow breathing and then we're
Right.
not crying or processing that. Then what happens is that little 5-year-old kid inside of you runs into the closet and hides and is not going to come out until it feels safe to do so.
Right.
So with this work, I feel like it shines light on that. It allows us to open the door to that inner child and say, it's okay to come out. You're safe. You know, you're loved. You're worthy. And in that moment, that inner child is really healed. And then you see the domino effect after that, because that inner child is now, that healed inner child is integrated back into the whole, into your adult self. And then you see this effect of like, you know, some of your physical symptoms start to disappear
Yeah.
and you're not triggered by that anymore.
Right.
So I have so many stories of that happening, not only personal, I definitely have personal ones, but just with other clients I've worked with
Yeah.
where that's
Have you
happened. And
have you
yeah.
had clients that have like, I mean, because I'm thinking of two people that are like, they will probably give you gray hair. So like, I mean, are there people that you're just like, wow, this is like really, really crazy? My brother's one of them. And he would definitely agree to that. Like, you just be like, holy shit, what's going on? Um, but based on our session that we just did and the things that came up from my childhood, and obviously he had the same childhood that I did, I'm really curious to see like what those things are that will come up from him, because he does deal with a lot of our emotional turmoil for most of his life, outbursts. And when you say that things trigger you, I know, you know, someone else that's really close to me, like he gets very triggered, shuts down, he becomes that inner child that goes in the closet
Mhm,
literally, and he won't come out until he's like, okay, I could integrate myself back into
mhm,
reality and society. So it's debilitating for people that have these, you know, because you said there's people that don't even have to have that much trauma. It could be generational. But for
mhm.
people that do have this generation or existence of trauma, how really debilitating it is to keep that trapped inside, because eventually it's like you start to have thinning hair, or you just start to have these
Mhm.
weird chronic pains come out of nowhere. All these weird things happen, and you're just associated with your physical body and not your emotional or energetical or spiritual body.
Yes. I would say yes to all of that. You become sort of disconnected to yourself in a way. Um, I would say after doing the work, you definitely get you almost like teaching your body how to be more connected to your intuition,
Yes.
because the work itself is teaching you as you see, oh, abandonment at 5. Yeah, that really happened. How did you know that? Well, I didn't know this. Like your body is telling me what is
Yeah.
priority for you. So
Hmm.
as I'm connecting to your energy and as we're showing you over and over and over again these emotions and the ages, you're beginning to wake up a little bit on the inside and say,
Yeah.
um, actually my intuition told me that, but I didn't listen. Or I thought I heard that the other day, or I thought about picking this up or doing this or whatever. And then, so that's one side of it, is you do become
Yeah.
more and more and more connected to yourself during the process, session after session. But also nothing really surprises me anymore. First of all, you don't even have to like say what's going on. You don't like what I told you in the
Right.
beginning is you can stay in that meditative state, because we do a little breath work and meditation beginning to get your body very relaxed so that your emotions really feel safe to come to the surface. And you could sit there and be quiet the entire time. Actually, I think when I did Gary, I think he actually fell asleep. He got so relaxed. And I had somebody do that the other day that was in person. And I was like, if you feel like laying down, feel free. They did. They fell asleep. And honestly, they told me when they woke up that they have not slept that good. And they felt like they were asleep for a really long time. But their body needed to like give their consciousness a break because they overthink everything. And so that they were able to go into that state of rest so that I could do the work. And then when they woke up, they were like, whoa, what just happened? It was like they were a different person, you know? And because really you almost walk out of a session, if your perspective is shifted that much because of you're not looking through that lens of that 5-year-old boy anymore, or whatever, that's, you know, freaking out, you're looking through that healed version of him, then you really are walking into a new reality.
Yes.
When you leave that session, you don't see things the same anymore because it is about your perspective. So even if I met your brother and we did it, like he doesn't have to talk about anything. There's no pressure to, and he doesn't have to sit around and like in therapy where he's like, oh, I don't know. Like, how am I feeling today? You know, but
because a lot of people hear that. A lot of people are afraid of that. Like, you know, you're like, we're going to go to this session. It's going to be really amazing. It's going to be really healing for you. They're like, well, I don't want to talk about it. Like, there's so many people that won't do healing work because they think that it's about reliving their traumas or whatever happened to them. And when you do something like this, and you're telling me like, okay, at age 5, you know, there's grief and this, and I'm just like, yeah, I can absolutely relate to every single point that you've brought up. And I don't have to sit there and say anything. I don't have to sit there and relive whatever happened in my childhood or in my life, but still get healing that surpasses any other type of verbal healing. You know, if you go to therapy, it's like, okay, I can talk about my problems all day long. Those emotional blockages are still going to be in my body. It might make me feel a little better temporarily, but with this moving the energy, and like, I feel like in this awakening that we're all having, people are starting to realize like, we're not just physical vessels here. Like our energetical bodies are what's really steering the ship. And once we realize that, then we're really able to find our proper healing, because it, like, I've been to so many different healers and stuff throughout these last 2 years that it's just synchronicities that you can't be like, oh, well, it's just, you know, like this is where things are meant to be, because we are meant to be going in this direction so that people can really find healing and not go to 75 different doctors and say, my hip hurts, my head hurts. Okay, we have to go to all these different doctors. Like you can go to one place and really help move and shift things that will really significantly benefit us in ways that a lot of doctors can't. I'm not saying that they can't help you, but it's just a different form of healing that people are not familiar with.
Oh yeah, completely. And it's funny too, because like I'll sometimes hear, now there's a lot more people that are open to it now. I come from a pretty religious community. And at first it was sort of like, I don't know, that sounds a little new agey.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and I was like, okay, let me explain it to you. First of all, do you have a cell phone? Yes. Have you ever FaceTime anybody? Yes. Do you ask how that works? Do you think it's witchcraft? No. Like it's all frequency, you know, you tune your radio station into a certain station and it picks up on a tower, maybe miles and miles and miles away of that same station. And then you hear the song. And I was like, that's how energy works in your body. Like you just, because you weren't taught at that, then you don't know and you don't understand it. Therefore you want to keep it at arm's length. But I will tell you, when you start to open your mind to realizing that everything's frequency and energy, which we have in the last many, many years, and you begin to truly, like something in you begins to really resonate with that. If we can let go of our old belief patterns and our old systems saying, be afraid of something you don't understand, then you never would have got into a car. You never, you know, but when you were first introduced to it, you never would have got in an airplane. You never would have used a cell phone. Like the fact that we trust someone to just give us these pills sometimes to say,
Exactly.
take this, this will help you, eat this is good for you, when they're making billions of dollars off of you.
Yep.
And there's a whole industry and business around keeping you unhealthy and sick. So if we can actually take and find what energy it is specifically that's making you sick, and you're doing all the work, your body is doing the work. It's not me that's healing you. Your body was designed to heal yourself, to heal itself. That's the way I believe God created the body to work. But because we have, all these chemicals coming at us and things we're breathing in, and, free radicals and all this other stuff, that's throwing our system out of whack. And not to mention the self-abuse, the alcohol we put in our bodies, the smoke that we breathe, sleep, lack of sleep, all that other stuff, and all the diseases and bacteria and parasites, then it's really hard for our body to get to that homeostasis, restful state, so that it can clean itself out every day. And so that we don't get a stack of emotions and a stack of physical elements, so that, we wake up one day and we have stage 4 cancer and we're like, what happened? And that's what we were hearing for many, many years, since the 80s, I would say, more and more and more of that. Or somebody just dies and they don't know what happened to them. Yep. And I even remember seeing people who were extremely healthy. That's when this started worrying me, is when they were runners or they ate great and, all of this other stuff. They were healthy, but then they also had some disease or something like that. So when I started making the connection, I was like, okay, so it does have to do a little bit with your diet, but it really has so much to do with the trapped energy that's in the body and the trauma. And that's what, eventually would kill us, probably, with anything. So in my eyes, when I started seeing that, I was like, okay, what can I do to not only help myself and my family, but other people, releasing that dense energy and having a new lease on life, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Well, so what are some of the things that you've seen with people after your sessions?
So it's funny. Now I take notes in the beginning of the session, like I did with you, because what would happen is I would reach out to them and say, how have you been? And they're like, great. And I would have forgotten what we did. And this is what always happens, though. As soon as you do not have that physical issue anymore, you forget about it. You forget you even had it, which is great. And that's you going back to something you said, is a lot of times people are afraid to talk about their past or their emotional trauma because they feel like they have to relive it. There is no reliving it when you go through the healing process. It is so fast when we shine a light on it. Sometimes people do cry because they need to process it and detox it, but then it's healed. That means that's not inside of you anymore to deal with. That means that specific emotion cannot ever be triggered again. That is huge. I mean, it is like huge, and it is like, if you want to think about it in these terms too, it's like that trapped emotion, that little girl that was hiding in the closet, it is like salvation for her, because it is such an awakening of like, I've been in this closet the entire time. I am loved. It is safe to go out there. I am worthy. And that's all we're doing, is highlighting that, So I would say now I take notes and I may go back and say, how's that foot been, Betty? Or, whatever. And she'll be like, actually, it hasn't hurt me at all since we did our session. And I'm like, awesome. That's great. And then they're like, well, now I've been dealing with this in this relationship thing, so I probably need to come back. So it's one of those things where, like, after one session, it's such a huge difference. People usually sleep way better. They feel lighter, like you mentioned. Almost like that weight, that so much of that baggage we've been carrying around is just gone. Yeah. And it's heavy, and we don't realize how heavy it is until our body's able to let it go. And then it's like, we are so free. And it doesn't mean it stops there. there's layers and layers and layers and layers of emotional trauma, but you do reach higher plateaus every single time.
Mhm.
So it's how far do you want to go with that? And I will say, to me, it's been a little bit addicting because I feel so much better after each session, even that I do with myself, or I may have a friend do it on me or something, that I just want to feel like I'm walking around in heaven every day. I want to feel bliss.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, you know, distracted by my physical body or distracted by the pain.
Yeah.
So I would say, there's some really cool stories too that I can think of, but like one lady, I was doing a workshop, and this was very fast. And it was kind of like one of those moments where, I was like, does anybody want me to do a session on you here at this workshop? And she's like, I guess I will. And I'm like, okay, here we go. It's just me. Like, if it doesn't work and she's not, then, that there's a whole crowd of people there. It's not like I was in a magic show or anything, but I was just like really wanting it to help her and for others to see that this really works. So, I was like, okay, I'm just going to ask for priorities. Well, she had carpal tunnel. And so she had a really hard time with her hands, especially in yoga and stuff like that. And she said, I've had surgery, and I'm going to have an appointment for another surgery on Wednesday. And so if you could help that would be great. And so I was like, let's just see what priorities we have. Well, the body code went straight to a tendon issue. And the tendon issue was like in this arm, it was up here. And then we found the trapped emotions that were associated with that, which was, I think, 7 years old. Well, then she just went white, and she's like,
what?
I had a car accident at 7 years old. I remember my arm hanging out the window, and it was cut from here to here.
What?
And then the emotions were spot on. It was like terror and something else. And so we released that. And by the end of the workshop, this was just a few minutes later, because she was like the last person, her massage therapist was also happened to be there. And she went over to her and she's like, do some rotations. Can you touch your fingers and all that? And she goes, she could touch all her fingers easily and effortlessly, rotate her wrist. She canceled her appointment that week. And she's been a client of mine ever since then, because she's like, not only did you save me like lots of pain, but tons of money, because I didn't have to have that appointment. I didn't have to have a second surgery. So I don't, the work for each individual is different for everybody. It doesn't necessarily mean like if you had stage 4 cancer that it was going to work for you overnight, but it does mean that cancer or whatever it is just that dis-ease in your body, right? It's just that dissonance. It's part of you that feels separated from who you really are, from your higher self, from God. It's that illusion of separation. So if we can get to those, emotions that are in that state of illusion of separation and bring them into oneness through love, then that's how your body begins to heal, layer by layer by layer.
That's so amazing. So you would recommend, like, do you have any recommendations of how many sessions, or do people just come to you and you're like, I want to feel even better, I want to go even deeper, so I'm going to book another session with you?
Yeah, sometimes I do have packages and things like that. Like sometimes I'll design a package, like a woman right now, her son's coming to me once a week. And so we designed like a little monthly thing for her, or you may do like, a package. If you felt like it really worked for you and you're like, oh, I want to do this like throughout this year to see how much better I can feel in a year, then you're going to like save money, I guess, in that way. But also when you book a session or you buy a package like that, what happens is your body begins to prioritize everything for you. So when the session is booked, like even we have been talking about it for a while. And so as soon as we booked it, your body already started prioritizing everything that was ready to come to the surface. So I feel like it makes the sessions even more powerful and impactful because there's like a plan. So the intelligence of your body can make a plan. But I also, I'm a spontaneous person sometimes. And so if somebody's having like a bit, like all of a sudden something happens, they're very triggered, or they're having some major like back pain or migraine or whatever, they may just message me and be like, is there any way you can get me in today?
Mhm.
And of course I'm always, if I can, I will. If I can't, I'll
Yeah.
tell you. But one of the things that you can do with this is that you can actually not just do it over FaceTime. I can do the work for you and send it to you. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm just connecting through the quantum field,
Mhm.
and then I'll ask for the priorities. So someone could set up a thing where I do that once a week.
Wow.
And what I would do
Yeah.
is just do the work and then, text them or email, whatever way they want it. And so their body is getting more and more and more relief, but they're not actually having to take the time to meet with me.
Okay.
So that's for kind of like the busy person. Other
Yeah.
people like to do it because it can be very relaxing in the moment.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, it's just like, I totally get remote sessions and stuff, um, like without seeing you, but to actually have the experience with you and just have the things come up, like, and I can just openly discuss them. Like our session was so cool because you're literally telling me face to face, like at what age there were certain emotions, and I could literally go back to those times and be like, yeah, that's accurate. Or, this is coming from your mother's lineage. I'm like, yeah, that's really accurate. It's just very interesting to see that someone else can read what my body is going through or went through at that period of time, and then we could just release and remove that together. It's just an
mhm,
amazing experience to have. So for anybody that's watching, I would highly recommend, face-to-face session, and you can ask questions, and it's like,
mhm,
it was very relaxing. It was super easy. And if there's ways for people to heal, because I sent my brother to my energy healers that are here,
mm.
and he did a remote session with them, and he was like, and a week later I texted him, I said, how do you feel? He's like, I feel a million times better. I don't know what they do, but so she literally did the session for him, and he wasn't on the phone with her or anything. He's like, I don't understand how that happened. So could you just like, talk a little bit about the quantum part of this, where you can tap
Mhm.
into people's energy? Because most people think that this is hokey pokey weird stuff. They don't believe in it.
There's
We're energetical
there,
beings.
there,
Hello.
there she, I know. Here's Willow. She wanted to say hi again. Uh, yes, the quantum field part of it. And like I said before, I understand why people think that, because that's really how I grew up.
Mhm.
And it didn't make sense that you could not see it, that you can't see something that it's actually impacting your life in some way, which is funny because we do that all the time. And even, oh my gosh,
Funny. She's the
uh,
cutest. I can't.
so like, well, for people who do believe in God, you
Yeah.
can't see God physically, but you can see the effects of God, and you can feel and experience that. And so um I feel like one session and you're a believer. But also it's not like voodoo magic. I'm not, going to any sort of like witchcraft thing. It's not about like asking for help from the dark side,
Right.
which I kind of feel like as I remember hearing, well, you got to be careful, Lindsay, because you may open a door to something. That's
Right.
what I would always hear. You may open a door to something that you don't want there. So I also feel like energetically we provide a very safe place because there's an invitation of God, there's an invitation of the angels, like to be surrounding you. And it's just a part of trusting, right? Trusting the way God created the universe to work. And if you don't believe in God, it still works. Like, because the way your body was created was intelligent,
Yeah.
divine intelligence that created your body to heal itself. So
Yeah.
you know, you can give credit to whoever you want to give credit to. And it's not, yeah, it's just all energy. So the quantum field, the way you like to answer that question now, the roundabout way, is it's so much of intention. Like so much of energy work is intention. So um, if you are a person who prays, then when you pray for somebody, let's say you're praying for Ukraine, or you're praying for someone in Africa, or you're praying for your grandma in California, then I feel like what's happened is what I used to believe is that my prayer is sent to God, and then God decides, oh, should I answer this prayer? Or is it a yes? Is it a no? Is it a maybe? That whole thing. So when I started seeing it this way, I was like, oh, what if this is the way God designed it to work, right? With energy. So when I pray, there's an actual vibration that I am being elevated to, and the frequency of that prayer, of those words, it can be and is sent to whoever I'm intending it to. So it's not going over here and bouncing off this satellite like a phone call. It's going directly through the quantum field energy, intentional to that person. And that's why when you see somebody has cancer and people all over the world are praying for them, they actually sometimes are just healed overnight, because the intention of that frequency of those prayers are going directly to that body and elevating them to that frequency where they're processing some of this old trauma. And the higher the frequency in the body, the less that stuff can really be present at all, because there's no match for it anymore. Right. So that's another reason why we use the light ball. And because that is opening you and shifting your frequency and your vibration to a higher state where this stuff can't hold on anymore. And sometimes you have very, very, very hidden stuff. It depends on how scared that little girl was and how far deep she went to hide. And I don't know if you remember, you've heard of Anne Frank, right? And when I was obsessed with Anne Frank's story when I was little, and I was obsessed because of how well they hid and how well they had to hide. And they would go behind the bookcase and they would go up the stairs. And I actually went to the house one time in Amsterdam and I was like, the tour was amazing. I was just crying the whole time, and you go behind the bookcase, up the stairs, and then there's another hole, and you go into that hole and there's another one. So think about that being your trapped emotions, because they're so scared. They go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, hiding behind the cells, hiding into things, that trauma. And so that's why it's a little bit of like a layer thing, right? And it's what your body's ready for. So I had a version of unworthiness at 7 that came out one of my first sessions, but I also had a version of unworthiness that was inherited that was a lot deeper than that. That was really beautiful when it came to the surface and came out. It was like, oh, thank you. But I had more of a intention too, to be able to care for myself in that way. And I can honestly say from this work and what I've seen in other clients too, is that so much of it is, as you release these things, you find more and more love for yourself. More self-love, more trust for yourself, more trust for your body, more trust for the way that things were created to work. And a lot of times you can even get there closer to that by self-care. So if you can woo yourself and, love yourself as if you would want a spouse or a partner to love you, or as if you would love, however you would love them, that for yourself develops trust and a bond, so that you're able to release they're able to come out of that scary place because they trust you now, So it is a lot of like inner child work. It's a lot of like self-care, self-love. It's not for, the, the weak, I guess, because it is a little bit, it is hard to go there, but also it's so rewarding and immediate like relief,
Yeah.
So I can't remember. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I've been going to my therapist for 10 years and I'm still depressed. Like, don't you just want to get it out? But the thing is like I said, in this crazy time that, all this is so much more available to us because people are more open to like really looking within. So this whole quarantine, this whole shit show that happened, it really forced people to look at themselves. And it's like, do I like this person that I am? And if I don't, how can I facilitate my own healing? And so people are
Exactly.
looking for answers. People are seeking that. So I'm just glad that we can have the conversation to put this information out there, because it's so much easier than sitting there with a therapist for 15 years and, spending $200 every time you go to them, and you're just like, oh, I feel good for 10 minutes. And then you're just like, oh, why does my life suck? So when you get to the root of these things, it's kind of like, damn,
Yeah.
like, okay, I could really open myself up to the true possibilities of life instead of like living in my sorrows forever, and just having a therapist to go pour your shit on.
Yes. Yeah. And what's cool is I've actually been working with therapists lately. I have a girl that does EMDR. I have a
That's
massage
amazing.
therapist, and I have just a bunch of different types of therapy because I love it all. I
Mhm.
love the salt rooms. I love the
Yeah.
massages. I love everything. And I think our body needs all of that self-care. But
Mhm.
what they've told me is that sometimes the therapist wants me to work with their client first so that we can come up with like 20 emotions for them,
Nice.
and their ages and stuff like that, and it sort of like breaks through this barrier that they've had for a while.
Mhm.
And I don't know about the traditional therapy because I kind of feel like you won't need to talk about it
If it's
after.
gone and you don't feel
Yeah.
those things anymore.
Exactly. But like EMDR and stuff like that, it really helps like open something
That
in the
helps
mind
me.
too. But but like after I've actually had a few conversations with traditional therapists, and like that's cool, but I almost think that they're a tiny bit like, ooh, is that going to be like my job now that she takes? But I'm like, no, you could learn this too, and it would make so a lot of traditional therapy is learning this process so that they can do that also in their sessions. So
Sure.
I just went the roundabout way of doing it. I was kind of more of like a self-care coach or life coach, and integrated this into that. So, but this to me is like the main thing. I'm like, if that's all you do is like emotion code, body code, and of course have like the light ball, because to me, I think it's just to me, it's the base of everything. Yeah, there we go. I have mine too, but it's over on the shelf.
Yes. We only have a
um,
couple more minutes left, Linz, but I mean, I am just so honored to work with you and what you do. And I knew from the first time that we were on Instagram Live together that you were someone in my tribe. Like, I just feel so connected to you. And I'm sure that people that work with you feel the same way, because your energy is just so inviting and so warm. And you just give people like, this is what's coming up for you. And you're so amazing at it. So I don't know how long have you been doing it for, Linz, but you really are incredible. So I'm just so thankful for you. How long have you been with it?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've been doing well. It's so funny because you and I, and our tribe and the empaths out there, we've been healing our entire lives and just didn't know it for the first chunk, in different ways through our creativity and, just our friendships and things like that. But um this has probably been I learned emotion code, body code probably about 4 years ago now.
Okay.
So I've used that. And then what I did on you earlier with the AO scan, I really love that. 'Cause that's this little handy dandy thing. This is like having a wellness center in your hand, because you can do a playlist of frequencies and like send that to you or to other people. You can get kind of a readout. It's like when you say go in the doctor. If somebody were to come to me, I usually do that first, because it's like you're getting a blood test, but it's all done through frequency.
Wow.
So it doesn't hurt you. Like I did it with you over the phone. It just
Yeah.
goes through the quantum field, gives you an idea of what's going on in the body. And that also helps us pinpoint some of the physical issues or emotional.
Mhm.
And then we'll go on into a emotion code, body code session, or which we didn't really talk about, but the heart wall sessions is another great one to do. And it's very similar to that, but it's strictly focusing on the emotions that are around the heart that have created the wall. So that has a lot more to do with the relationships in your life and also manifesting your
We'll have to
desires.
do that one.
Yeah, let's definitely do it. We'll do it next because you're
Good.
going to love that one too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. I appreciate you
You're welcome.
having me here and meeting all your amazing people out there. And
No, it's great. We'll do another podcast around the heart wall session, because I think that a lot of people could probably absolutely relate to that, especially now with just how many restrictions we now have. It was just like, oh, well, I like him and this one and that one. Well, is he a Democrat or Republican? Is he vaxxed or unvaxxed? Like, there's so many variables now.
Yeah,
So I think
no.
it would be very relatable for people to do that.
Right. And some people, it's good because it's made their pool smaller, but even more specific, but it's also like the biggest thing about the heart wall, I feel like, is it's releasing the things that are blocking your ability to create and manifest, because either we can think about it all day long and write it down and make a vision board, but if we don't feel worthy of it, honored to be here with you. And you're amazing. I'm so grateful you're my tribe. And I really hope you come to Arkansas and do the
coming to
Krystal thing.
Arkansas. I'll be there.
Okay. We're doing it like in June, I think, but I'll send you the dates.
All right. Let me know. I'll be there.
I'm so excited. You're going to love it.
Me too. Can't wait to meet you in person and give you the biggest hug.
I know. It's going to be so great. I feel it already, but to physically get that hug, and my arms are really long, so I'll wrap them around, like all around you, and really tight.
That worked. You're the best. Liz, thank you so much for joining, and I'll chat with you soon.
Okay, sounds great. Love you, girl. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me get my
Bye.
teleprompter ready. Why does this always... Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see if we could spout this out. I love it. I love her in the background.
Just so everybody knows, I did not buy her this giant bunny.
It
was a gift, and she loves it, and it's bigger than her. And
it is.
This is Willow. She needs her own Instagram. I swear.
I love her.
Willow, you want to say hi? But anyways, it's
pretty decent. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Just edit that one part out, and then oh fuck the commercials. Dang. Thought Willie's just back. Dang. Okay. If you could hold that thought, we'll be back in just a minute right after this. I hope you enjoy that. Like, I love talking to you like you're my only audience member. But I love you.